on your labs. Okay, so I looked up the prep at break time, and you know how like people with like shingles or herpes or something, we have antiviral medications? Well, because HIV is a retrovirus, those medications are antiretroviral medications. Whew. And trying to understand their mode of action was going to take me a little bit of time. All right, because it's pretty interesting, just to say the least. But I did look it up, and it is a medication I think you take every day, but if you're in situations where your chances of it are higher, I think it gives like 92% protection. You know, that 8% could still be a high amount though, but you know, 92% is, you know, so that was interesting. All right, so in the respiratory system, I'm not going to go into great detail about the structure of the respiratory system because that's something you can look at through your textbook. There are a couple of things that I want to point out about the anatomy of the respiratory system. And of course, you know, if you look at beginnings of the respiratory system, nose, mouth, okay, mouth breathers versus nose breathers. And so the external nose, all this visible, when we begin to look at the respiratory system, it's beginning at a point of the nares down, okay? So, couple of things. The vestibule is part of, you know, because we've got the air equalization that has to occur. The hard palate is forming the floor of the nasal cavity. Nasal septum is our division. And then something I want to point out on that structure that we're getting the division between the two sides. These flaps right here, these choanae, okay? What's going to happen with this structure as we look at the air that has to come in? These little flaps that are existing on that septum and in this division, as we breathe in, and under normal circumstances, both nostrils are not working at the same time. One will work for a certain amount of time, the other one will work one, unless physically done yourself. Okay, it's really cool. All right, and sometimes you can actually hold your finger and just say. Now, those flaps, their job, blind with those mucous membranes, warm that air and moisten that air. So they're very important in that air that makes it to those alveoli. As we continue looking at some of this anatomy, we're going to, well, we know pretty much that we have an opening that's going to go to our digestive system, and we've got an opening that needs to go to our respiratory system. So those regions that are going to make up areas in the respiratory system, we have our nasopharynx region, the oropharynx region, and the laryngopharynx region. In the nasopharynx, blind, pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Do you remember that cell structure?
You said what?
Pseudostratified. Let's look at that term right there. Pseudo means false. Stratified meaning looking like layers. So pseudostratified, false layers. So that tells me it's only one layer of cells that's present in this area.
Isn't it simple category?
Not with like simple cuboidal, but simple columnar, yeah.
Okay.
But they call it pseudostratified because it has that appearance of looking like there's more than one layer, but it's false, the false layers. But remember, this type of cell contains goblet cells. The upside down wine glass that you learned about in part 1, these produce mucus. Now, as we breathe in, this becomes important. One thing that we can't have happen in the structure of the lungs, we cannot have debris make its way to the lung tissue. When we have debris that's out here in the outer environment around us, that's making it into the nostrils and then making its way through this tubular structure, the body is going to work very hard to get rid of it. We'll sneeze. Do a little cough. We'll do a little swallow, okay? Because it's wanting to take whatever's coming in here and take it here and not let it go any further, okay? When we have to have a really heavy cough, that means that that debris gets past these structures up here, makes it to the point where it's going to try to be branching into the left and the right, and we really don't want it there. And the body's going to work really hard with a really heavy cough trying to get that up, okay? The reason for that, the ability of these alveoli and their structure to actually be able to handle a foreign particle are almost nil, okay? In other words, they don't have a lot of immune cells in the alveoli to withstand any irritants and things like that that can come in. This is why people who are smokers, all right, and remember I'm saying smokers, I'm not identifying what kind, okay, because it's any of it, all right? The ones who've done it for years and years and, you know, are older now and blah, 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 they wake up in the morning, you know, sounds like they're coughing up a lung. That is because this pseudostratified columnar epithelium and then cells, these cells that are lining these tubular structures, have now become simple squamous. They have actually changed their structure type. And on the pseudostratified columnar epithelium, as we find it in these areas, it has cilia. So non-smokers have their correct cell structure with mucus production, with cilia, so that anything that's trying to enter will get pushed out. We'll sneeze, we'll do the little cough, we'll swallow, hot the loogie, whatever the case might be, okay, and get rid of it. People who have killed this cell structure can't and don't. It's bad, all right? So, as we begin to see these areas, like I said, we're going to share this region with the digestive system. Luckily, we've got little flaps that are going to exist, but sometimes when we eat or drink, or sometimes even just swallowing, okay, tries to go, we go, try to go down wrong too, okay, and so, yeah, what it did, it tried to go down the wrong tube, and trust me, we don't want that, all right, and that's why the body's going to make you cough, all right, and make you try to get that out, because any fluid that may make it down this tubing structure. Is that good for the lung? All right, people who might throw up and, you know, swallow it down, they're going to asphyxiate, okay, die. All right, so it works really hard to be the only thing that's happening here is air, okay? So as we share it with the digestive system, and then we get our voice production, we get our air moving, we have the mucus, we get the lining, that sort of thing. And as we begin to get past this tubular structure and beginning to head down, one of the things that becomes important, all right, as you move into your chosen professions, chances are great that you're going to be taught how to intubate a patient, all right? Now, this structure going this way, all right, you're going to be taught. Sometimes you might have to be involved with a tracheotomy, all right? And it's going to become important for you to be able to identify some of this cartilage that's going to be present, all right? Now, granted, as you move forward and you move into clinicals and training and that sort of thing, you will be trained in this, okay? But they're going to expect you to know some terms, all right? They're going to expect you to understand or know when they say thyroid cartilage, my cricoid cartilage. They're going to expect you to know some of these terms, all right? So be familiar because, you know, a lot of times as you think about this, you know, the Adam's apple, all right, the cricoid cartilage, the arytenoid, they're going to expect you to be able to know, okay, well, this is what I've got to feel for at this point, and that sort of thing. Because if somebody does have to be like on the breathing machines or something to that effect, as the nurse or whatever the caretaker you might be, might become your job to have to go in there and clean stuff out. All right? Emily's over there shaking her head at me because I'm guessing she's seen that or had to be involved in it. But it's very important for that patient, okay? So those are some cartilages that you're going to want to be familiar with at the time that a person might have to be intubated, or a person might have to have the tracheostomy, might have to have the breathing tube, whatever the case might be. So the trachea itself, something that I kind of want to point out real quick. Like I was saying, the lining that we're going to find, pseudostratified columnar epithelium with cilia, okay? The cilia are extremely important. The production of the mucus is extremely important because this helps us keep materials out from getting into the respiratory system. There are some diseases that affect mucus production. Have you ever heard of cystic fibrosis? What is it? It can end up in that. Like one of the things that happens in people with cystic fibrosis, because it is a genetic disease, it's a recessive trait. Parents don't suffer, but the children do, okay? They actually have an overproduction of the mucus. And what this means, and remember, mucous membranes line all of the openings to the exterior environment from our body. And because of this overproduction and the body not being able to handle this overproduction, as they eat, for example, one of the